According to the National Center for Education Statistics and Bureau of Justice Statistics, between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3 students claim to have been bullied at school. As defined on stopbullying.gov, bullying is unwanted aggressive behavior among school-aged children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or it has the potential to be repeated over time. Peers play all sorts of roles, including kids who bully, who are bullied, who assist, who reinforce, who act as a bystander, and who defend. The student or student groups targeted are those who depart from the norm in some way. For example, LGBT students are often targeted. In response to this bullying, a number of initiatives have developed, such as the Trevor Project, Safe Schools Coalition, Gay Straight Alliance, and others. Joining us this morning to further discuss school bullying is a 15-year-old young lady from outside of Dallas, Texas. Winter Page is an ally for LGBT students and a published author. Her first book, Breaking Free, was recently published by Harmony Inc. Press. Good morning, Winter.
Oh, I think we're having a little audio problem. Winter, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today and calling in from a different time zone to be here with us on WRHU, Hofstra's Morning Wake Up Call. Winter, before we discuss your experience with high school bullying and the topic of your book, we'd like to get to know you a little better. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, goodness. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I've been an athlete all my life. I practically came out of the womb doing sports. But I think the first thing that comes to mind is when I was born, I had a very severe brain injury. I was legally blind by 6 months. They told me I would never walk, talk. I'd be cerebral palsic. I'd have an IQ of 60 and a lot of other things, black blind by the age of 5. But my mother did 7 years of 10 hours a day physical therapy with me. And now here I am.
Wow.
But the thing is that I grew up in an environment where I would have been overlooked. When I had a meltdown at a supermarket because my brain was, it wasn't functioning properly, my mother was the one that would sit there and calm me down while other people said, beat that child. Like, she just needs a good whooping. And so I grew up in an environment where I was told, there was something wrong with me. I wasn't normal. I was the kid in the corner that was invisible. And so I grew up around those kids, too. And the thing about the kids in the corner, may it be a brain-injured cerebral palsic kid or an LGBT youth or a kid being bullied, is that at the end of the day, we're all human. And in my personal view, no one deserves to be overlooked, and no human being is unworthy of our attention. And so part of why I think I am the person I am today is because I grew up as that kid, and I know what it's like. And, I was in school, and I'm fine. I'm the person I am now because I went through that. But yes. I understand what that's like.
Right.
And, my athletics brought me to belly dance, which is, of course, where I met my transgender inspiration for this book. And so, I don't know, I've lived a very serendipitous life, I think.
Good. Well, we're going to get into that in a little bit. So I mean, it sounds like you had a wonderful support network, which they say is extremely important. So it's, a wonderful mother who coached you through. That's beautiful. So Breaking Free was recently released and can be purchased on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or DreamSpinnerPress.com. How long have you been writing, Winter? How long has this been a part of your life? I know you were heavily involved in athletics and other areas, but how long has writing been a part of your life?
Oh, goodness. I come from a family of writers. I laugh because we all swore at one point we were never going to write. So it's the family joke of, you think you're not going to? but I've always grown up around them. You know, my mother is an author who's published well over 40 books,
Wow.
and she's fantastic. And, you know, my grandmother was an English teacher, and so it's always been a part of my life. You know, I grew up and I learned a 5-paragraph essay when I was 6. It's just kind of a part of who I am, you know?
Sure.
It's one of those things, it's like passing the turkey at Thanksgiving. It's just a family tradition I don't think much about. But I got really heavy into it when I was 13 in 7th grade for NaNoWriMo.
Okay.
And I finished my first manuscript there, and I guess I just kind of haven't looked back.
Wow. Wow. Well, perfect. Let's turn now to Breaking Free. The young adult book follows a high school junior named Raimi Carter, who was born as a male but underwent a gender transformation because she identifies as a female. The story begins with Raimi and her first day as a transfer student at a new high school in Texas. A strong student, Raimi is enrolled in all advanced placement, or AP, classes as a junior. Can you tell us a little bit about the story without, of course, giving too much away for our listening audience?
What I wanted to do with Breaking Free is create a really sweet high school love story that stays true to the toxicity that surrounds high school experiences today. And, you know, not all high school experiences are toxic per se, but there is stuff that goes on at the high school that I don't think many parents are aware of. And I wanted to touch on that and, you know, put little elements of that into my book. It's kind of nuggets of truth, if you will. And what it follows is Raimi has recently moved from Texas to a new school, and she goes in and she's living a normal life, and she falls in love with the very closeted head cheerleader, very out of her league, and she knows it, but it's kind of an admiration from afar until something radical happens in the head cheerleader's life, and then they're both there to kind of support each other. It's about, I think at the end of the day, Breaking Free is really about falling in love with people who accept you and learning to just stay with that and accept that for what it is and accept it for the extraordinary gift that unconditional love is, while also having to deal with the dichotomy of when maybe you aren't accepted in your school or maybe your parents don't accept you. And so that's what I was trying to really play off of in Breaking Free.
We are right back with someone. We had a little bit of a war with their phone. This is Winter, who is a 15-year-old author, Winter Page, from near Dallas, Texas. And apparently you guys had a storm down there last night, Winter, and that's why we were having some of the technical problems with the phone.
Oh, Texas weather.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like things are doing much better for us now, so we're going to get back into it. And I actually had a question to lead off with, and that question is, what has the response been to your book about kind of teenage bullying and the problems that happen from your fellow teens? I mean, do you go to a public school? Do they know that you're an author? And has there been a positive reaction, a negative reaction, a mixed reaction? What have your classmates thought about it?
First and foremost, I have gotten the only word I can relate to it is mixed reaction.
Okay.
Luckily, I don't go to a public school. I go to an online school for various reasons. It's a fantastic education, though. But no, the kids at that school don't really know that I'm an author, but all of my friends who are still in public school, they know. And I've lost some friends over it, I'm not going to lie, because motives changed on being friends with me. But their reaction to the book, my close friends, were very much of the, okay, cool, whatever, we don't care, good for you. You know, it wasn't important to them what my book was about. They were just like, oh my gosh, you got published. Like, the LGBT subject matter didn't faze them at all. I think I had to explain what LGBT was to someone, and that was the most it was. But the interesting thing is that the negative reactions I have been seeing have been coming from parents of kids, and from kids who I had had, you know, maybe minor spats with before. And then, oh, Lord, they did not hold back. I've gotten a lot of anonymous messages on social media, everything from religious slurs to why would you even consider doing something like this? You're 15. But again, I have a fantastic support network, and my only reaction to the negative people has been to say, I'm glad you're sending all of this anger towards me, because if you're sending it to me, then you're probably less focused on sending it to an LGBT youth, and I can deal with this.
And
but maybe they're in a place they can't.
I think it's interesting that you talk about receiving, the online anonymous people saying things towards you. And I think that's the biggest difference between when I grew up in the 80s and 90s and you growing up now, is that with social media and the internet, people can kind of hide behind their keyboards, the keyboard warriors, as some people would describe them. How big of an aspect do you think social media and the online anonymity is to increasing the amount of bullying and kind of personalizing it and making it follow kids home, where I used to be able to leave school if someone was bothering me. I wouldn't have to see them until school, but now online, you're all constantly connected, basically. How big of a part do you think that plays in the bullying problems that we have today?
Absolutely, a huge part. Because the thing is that you've touched on a really important part. A lot of people think, social media puts your life online, be careful what you put out there, it's so public. It's really not, because the people who know how to use it know how to use it. Like, my generation is very much in tune with technology, and we know how to make a post, tag someone in it, and then take it down as soon as they've seen it. It's not about public displays of aggression anymore. It's about very private, very underhanded, very discreet shows of aggression online. And the thing about social media is that it's a blessing and a curse. It's really great because I have friends all over the world now because of technology, but I also have had to block several people because of technology.
Sure. So I want to turn back to what we were discussing prior to our quick change with the phones there, and return to Breaking Free and your character Raimi. You mentioned that she was inspired by someone in your life. Can you talk a little bit about who informed that character?
My transgender dance instructor, who is an amazing human being. He is a female-to-male transgender and genuinely one of the nicest human beings I think I've ever met. And he is so strong for being who he is in the Bible Belt. And I was dance stalking him one night on YouTube because he's a spectacular dancer. And I came across a video diary of him as he was transitioning from genders. And he was asked a question, about coming out, his advice. And he was just like, be safe, don't do it if your parents are going to disown you or, beat you or your friends are going to beat you up. Be safe about it. And that hit so close to home because I was like, what if my life was literally, I was afraid to tell my mother that I was born a certain way or that I liked a certain gender. I mean, that would be terrifying, absolutely mind-numbingly terrifying. And that I started writing after that because I just couldn't be quiet anymore.
Yeah, wow. Winder, you have already accomplished so much and you've only just begun. What's in store for you next? How do you plan to continue helping your LGBT peers in the future?
That's a good question, and it's a tricky question because this subject is really touchy for people. And so you kind of have to be careful where you put your foot down so that the ground doesn't cave out from under you. I think next is talking to one of the high schools in my district about getting a gay-straight alliance because I know we have it at one of the high schools, but I feel like it's underdeveloped in our other high schools. And I feel like the gay-straight alliances are tremendously important. So that's where I'm looking now.
Excellent. Great. And if our listeners want to find you or get in touch with you, you mentioned social media is one way. How can they do that? How can they find you or reach you in addition to reading your book?
Well, I'm really active on Instagram at winter_page. Same for Twitter. I'm really active on those two social media platforms mainly right now.
Okay.
But I am hoping to expand to Facebook later this month and have my website up soon.
Excellent. Well, we will look forward to that, and we'll keep an eye out online. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We want to wish you all the best as you continue to observe and instigate change in the world around you.
Thank you guys so much. Coverage is just as important as content.
That is very true. All right, thank you, Winter, and sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully the weather gets a little bit better down in the Dallas area, and your phone is doing a little better over the coming days. But thank you so much for joining us on the Morning Wake Up Call.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right. And that was Winter Page, a 15-year-old author of Breaking Free. Her books are available, or her book is available online. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, DreamSpinnerPress.com. Basically, you can find it wherever good books are sold online, it looks like. And it sounds like she has a pretty exciting future ahead of her, wouldn't you say, Rebecca?
I do think so.
15
and already a published author, like you were saying before. Again, what have I been doing?
Yeah, she's 20 years younger than I am and already has more books published than I do. I don't know that anything that I wrote would be something people would want to read, but hey, you never know.
But they do like to listen.
Right, they do.